That's great. That's great.
Hey guys, what's going on? I thought I would make this video for you really quick. Before this interview took place, I had some technical difficulties. Either I forgot to press record or OBS wasn't working. So we pick up today's interview with me realizing that I didn't hit record. But fear not, it's still a very great interview. Jesse was nice enough to stay a little bit longer and answer some of the questions that I posed again, and it was a great time. I think you're going to love it. So enjoy.
Well, you
just get.
I'm so pissed, dude. The app crashed in the background.
Oh, did it? Oh,
yeah. Which means
right.
that everything we're talking about is gone, but it is up and running now, and it shouldn't crash because I just stopped everything and I figured out why. But I am beyond pissed. So please be patient with me. Oh,
that's okay.
God, that is the worst.
I've done that before, so it's happened to me during interviews.
Well, I appreciate your patience. You know
absolutely.
what? I'm not even going to sugarcoat this. Everybody, I'm a giant idiot. Hold on, I'm going to say that again, actually on camera. Can I get on camera? Everyone, I'm a giant idiot. I've been talking to Jesse the Brain over here for about the past, 20 minutes, and I just noticed that OBS is not recording. So I'm not going to do some fake, hey, how's it going? Some disingenuous hello, but it is, I will say, again, it is really nice to see you, man. It has been some time, and I might have you talk about running again, because that's insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in any case, I hate the internet. I really hate it. All right, well, yes. I know the time is short. I know you got some other things going on today, so I'll try to fire through some of these questions. I might recycle some of them, so, try
absolutely.
to be as patient as you can. Oh, I'm so pissed right now. Oh, my God.
Brings back memories, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. You know what? Let's just bounce ahead to that. It does bring back memories of nightmares. I want to jump ahead. I've got questions in like 3 different departments. So some questions for Jesse, some questions about Jstreet and Jstreetradio, and then we have the Aaron Mooney lightning question, fun time round, whatever you want to call it at the end here. But one of the questions on here that I wrote in regards to Jstreet was, what was one of the things that you loved the most and hated the most about doing Jstreetradio out of 98.3 FM WRLR? And you just noted, memories of the past of screwing up with things like this.
Yeah.
So many nightmares there, right?
Yeah, what can you say about loving stuff Jstreetradio? I mean, it was amazing. I mean, getting the local bands in there to play live. There's nothing really like it. I mean, especially when they're hitting you up with kind of unique songs, music that you've never heard before, and stuff like that, and getting it all on recorded and getting other people to hear that stuff over the airwaves or the internet, whatever it was at the time. That was amazing. I mean, getting to see them in person and finally meeting them after chatting with them or whatever online. So yeah, that was awesome. The live in studio stuff was some of my favorite moments on that show.
What was the worst technical disaster of working out of there? Just, since we're speaking about technical disasters right now. Oh, jeez.
Well, the show took place out of, WRLR, a little kind of a independent radio station out of Round Lake. They only reached us, a certain radius out. I forget what it was, how many miles, but you can only get it on FM, if you were within the radius of the antenna. So that was kind of the most frustrating piece. People would have to, or especially fans of bands would have to drive in to the or drive around until they could actually get the signal on the radio. But the station had quite an issue early on troubleshooting of their internet feed, which fed the radio, fed what was being played on the radio over the internet. So they went through various iterations of internet feeds. I forget what they ended up with, and then towards the end of the radio show, they had a pretty solid feed, and they ended up using like an online. At the time, that those online, I forget what they were at the time. Those TV video feeds on the internet that were popular at the time. Gosh, it was basically internet TV. Pretty much a webcam that fed a live version of what was being played in the studio to the internet. So, and the station had some time working through that pain, and that eventually kind of worked out. So that was kind of like getting people, enough people to listen in with what was available at the time. You know, a low powered station and kind of a buggy internet feed, which eventually worked itself out. People did listen in, and being a radio station, you can't really tell how many people are actually listening at the time. But the internet feed got a lot better because you can actually see the stats, which was pretty awesome there. So yeah, that was kind of the most frustrating piece of it, is getting out there. But then, you know, of course, we had the podcasts too, which we recorded the shows, and then a friend, Kelly, and a couple other people yourself to put them together and put them out to the people, and people listen in that way as well. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, once the internet came in, it made our lives all a little bit easier. But I remember, because of where Lake County is, and there's like all these little bodies of water, that we would get some people hearing the show in Union Grove, Wisconsin, but then certain points of Round Lake couldn't hear the show. So it was just odd. And then some days it would change, and it was definitely interesting. But there was, I mean, phone participation always lets you know how many people are calling in. And once the internet was up, that helped.
Phone
a lot
stuff
too,
was fun.
You know.
Yeah, it all depends on the geography, I guess, with the antenna that they were using at the time. The wind could be blowing a certain way. You get the signal, you know, in an area that was not expected, you know, Wisconsin or whatever. And they've heard it as far south as Schaumburg, at least at one point, which was kind of amazing. But otherwise, it's just the internet feed. Yeah,
for sure. Well, tell me something great, man. It feels like I haven't seen you in forever because I haven't seen you in forever. What's new in your world?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the whole COVID thing happened, so we're just kind of getting out of that. You know, that was a little rough last year. You know, had a lot of people I knew and some family that got COVID, but fortunately got out of it. Thank God, you know, safely, and everyone as well. That was in December. I had a quarantine at one point for a couple of weeks after some exposure. So fortunately, I didn't get anything like that. So that was rough.
At the airport or something?
No, it was just the exposure to people that were close to me at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much, you know, work. The job kind of went all remote back in March of last year. So, and yeah, we just kind of stayed home and really didn't go out much except for groceries and essential stuff. So, you know, and I was running at the time. I did a 100-mile trail run like the year before, a couple years before that, and I was training for that like late 2019 into 2020, and then COVID happened, and all my races that I was running kind of got all canceled, so that kind of all got pushed to the wayside. And pretty much just I was, you know, fiddling around with the blog at the time, and yeah, but made it through, and things are looking good so far anyway.
Since you've been stuck at home, have you like bought a Peloton or anything to at least keep the legs nice and oiled up, or are you just walking the stairs at home?
No, yeah, walking as much as possible, right? back during COVID, I kind of focused more on a lot of the strength training and stuff just to get in shape for future running endeavors. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Getting back into training again for the 100-mile ultra run. So hopefully get that maybe next year or the year after. So yeah, shaped
Very
up.
cool.
I lost like 11 pounds at one point on purpose. Get back in shape. Kind of. That's pretty much all we could do. Stay at home, work out, and go for walks, and maybe a run or two all alone. You know.
Are you enjoying working from home? Are you drinking like 10 times more coffee? I feel like I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, still home. The job's got us remote still, slowly bringing everybody back. But yeah, I enjoy it. Wake up, roll out of bed, jump on the laptop, start work, stop work, and go fishing, go for a run. The commute for me would be like an hour and a half or from where I live, because the job's in downtown Chicago. So I don't miss that at all. So yeah, that was good.
94 downtown every morning.
Pretty much, yeah, 94. Or the new job I had, which I got, I think a metro was an option, so a train. So, but I never got to do that since we weren't remote. But yeah, and what I can do is all remote anyway, so I'm happy with that. And the bosses are happy as long as the work gets done right. So.
Yeah, they can't complain. Speaking of running, my fat ass hates running. I think the 11 pounds plus about another 11 pounds that you lost, I've gained in the past couple months just because of a couple injuries and just some horrible health problems. But I'm a smoker and I'm a big guy. I've always been a big guy. I've just got like a big build. But I need to do more cardio. But running kills my back. Like, and you know I have a pretty bad back problem, and I'm curious if you personally have any tips for me of just what's a good balance. Should I just stick to walking? Should I do trail running at the minimum? Stay away from sprinting for the extra weight and bouncing around? Like what would be your 2 cents, because you are, the marathon man, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, walking is like, part of losing some of that weight is, walking, uh, 10,000 steps a day, 7,000 steps, whatever it is. It's pretty much, we did a lot of that during COVID. So, and it helps everything, right? It's good for you. So running is not for everybody, of course. Me, it's kind of weird. I have kind of lower back issues if I don't run. So yeah. When my back starts complaining, it's like, well, you got to get up and go for a run. So I do that. I feel better. So yeah, it's different for a lot of people, but yeah, walking is important, and stretching every morning, which I do, kind of leads into that as well. I do have kind of lower back issues at times, so running helps, and stretching too. Pretty much every day.
When people ask me some of my problems, I make the comparison to the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. And
Yeah.
when you're talking about
I
that
believe
lower back, that hinging that you need to do, if it's not
Yeah.
well oiled, you start to get more problems. So trust me, I completely understand where you're coming from with that. But I take all this to heart, which leads me to another question exposing my level of ignorance. But when I worked with JStreet, around the first or second year that I was there, I was really heavy. I didn't work out at all. I was just a bag of crap, and I was having these back pain problems because of playing music and just a bunch of random stuff. But it wasn't the problems I was having now. It was all injury based, whatever. But I remember you and Sam telling me to check out massage rollers. You're like, oh no, these things are awesome. They're great, for recovery. And I'm just like, I totally blew it off. Didn't even think about it twice. I'm going to flash something on the screen now of like the 9 massage rollers that I have now. So I should definitely take your opinion close to heart, because if I would have listened to you and the benefits of that, I can only imagine what my life would be like these days, man.
Yeah, no, training, especially doing ultra running with the long distances, those are pretty important to keep everything kind of lined up and takes care of a lot of the soreness and pretty important. That's definitely something I do every day too. Yeah, for sure. I'm glad it helps though.
It is ridiculous, man. I've spent a small fortune on physical therapy stuff over the past couple of years and had to have done I've done a lot of lifestyle changes, but the massage roller, and depending on which one it is I mean, I sing your praises and I tell this story all the time because not only because of how serious you've taken marathon running and where you're coming from and how your opinion, I think, really holds some stock there, but also it just shows on how much I could have avoided by using something so dumb and small, but is so underrated and helpful. Now when I travel, I've got a travel size one that's perfect with the right grooves, and it is
Cool.
that and a few other things are definitely on the top of the list of what has helped me with my physical problems. There's no denying that whatsoever, and I swear up and down by them. It's like, spend the $30 and it will definitely save you so much problems.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, sitting is usually. I sit at my job all day, so make it important to move, and those kind of things help too. So, yeah, that's awesome. They have so many. I mean, they've come a long way. They have so many fancy ones, things that vibrate, and these huge gadgets that kind of you use to massage muscles and all that. They've come a long way with that stuff. But a simple little roller. Does amazing work for sure.
At home, when you're working now, I've got a riser desk, even though I've got some monitors and stuff over here. I use this every once in a while. Are you still sitting all the time, or is like at home, do you feel like you got a little bit more functionality going on, a little bit more ability to not be so, in the cubicle kind of thing,
No, I make it a point when I can walk during my lunch, at least 30 minutes.
Nice.
I do have stairs in my office, so I do those as often as I can. Yeah, I do stand up on my desk too. So I found that I'm kind of I've got an Apple Watch with the activity, kind of obsessed with that, making sure I close all my rings. So activity rings, the stand up and the walking goals and all that fun stuff, which I enjoy. So yeah, it's always important to keep moving for sure.
I got this as a gift from someone.
Yeah.
And I had it for not even a day. And the band came undone and it fell and just broke itself in one day.
Oh, that stinks.
And now they tell me that it's just cheaper to buy a brand new one. And that stinks. Regardless,
Yeah.
what's the latest piece of tech gear you've been using? Is it the Apple Watch?
I use an iPad like almost exclusively now. I have an iPad Pro, 12-inch. I use that thing a lot. I have a new Mac, or not a new Mac, but it's not new, but I've always been a Windows user, so I've got a MacBook Pro that I've used for video editing and some other graphics, photo editing kind of stuff, which I enjoy. So yeah, it's iPad all the way. I read my news on it, videos, photos,
does the MacBook,
news, everything.
Does the MacBook have a drive, or is it one of the models that you have to get the dongle and do all that fun stuff?
No, it's got the solid state built-in drive. Yeah, I use mostly all cloud services nowadays. So gotcha. iCloud and Google Drive and all that. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you're not getting around this question because it's too funny to me. Are you still using a Palm Pilot these days, or have you thrown those?
Yeah, I used to use those a lot. The old Palm Pilots. Probably, I don't even know if people would know what a Palm Pilot even is these days. But yeah,
you can.
Those were the thing, man.
There's new ones.
Yeah,
so some people know.
There are. Yeah, I love those devices. I mean, it was something different. iPhone wasn't out at the time. It was all pretty much a Palm Pilot that was using the smartphone at the time, besides a BlackBerry.
Nokia had like a couple apps, but other than that, it was like that. Other than BlackBerry, it was like actually had some value of working on some sort of station on your phone, opposed to what's the texting where you have to press 5-7 times to get to L?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I mean it had the web, what they called the Web OS, web operating system at the time. which is now kind of like it's what iPhone pretty much is now. But once the iPhone came out, you know, Palm they got bought out by Motorola or somebody at the time, and they kind of all fell.
Society just went all app based at that time. It's like it didn't even compete, you know?
Yeah, I still own all my old devices. I still own them. I will not get rid of them. I see them pop up on eBay once in a while, going for a lot of money. So
you should take a photo of all of them, because I know you have a bunch of them. You were into it that much.
I have got that would be awesome. The Palm, the Vizio. I've got a Palm, a Pre, which was really popular at the time with the new WebOS stuff. I've even got the original iPod with the circular wheel on it. And it doesn't work anymore, but I've got one of those too. The very first iPod that came out.
It's like this thick.
Not with the one with the mechanical wheel, but one with the touch wheel on it. Yeah, I've got one of those. If I had it near me, I'd bring it out. But yeah, I've got all those in a little drawer. I was actually going to build a little display case to put them all up. I'll probably do that at some point.
That would be funny. Years of tech, and just put them all up.
A lot of them still work. Yeah, I've kept them all working. So
hilarious. Well, for those that don't know, I don't even know how to do like a bio for you, Jesse. I mean, you are into marathon running. You were into local music for a super long time, but you're a big tech guy, which is a big part of your life. So people might not know, you know, who you are, where you're coming from, but they're definitely going to learn a lot about this now. And if you remember some of these things, if you don't remember them, go do a Google search. You'll laugh at a good Palm Pilot. But this does lead me to ask, because, you know, you've been blogging and doing all kinds of stuff, from tech reviews and just all kinds of stuff over the years. You've been blogging for like 15 years now, which is kind of crazy, and you've landed at JessieMendoza.me, and I'm curious, why a website in this day and age? Well, like, why do you choose to still have a website in this day and age when social media is, like, you know, rampant everywhere, and that's, you know, the thing?
Yeah, well, I've always blogged. I think my very first platform was Blogger. Google's Blogger was my very first blog. That was years ago. I'll be dating myself a lot during this show. So, yeah, for those that remember Blogger, that was like the blogging platform at the time. That's where I first started my blog, and then I moved. What was that other blog? There was a bunch of other blogging platforms, but yeah, I settled on a WordPress site. Which I feature a lot of running stuff, which I enjoyed, not only telling people about my running endeavors, but getting a little knowledge out there for people that are getting into running. Sadly, the site hasn't been updated recently, ever since COVID and all that, and got a new job a couple of years ago that kind of all fell by the wayside. But I do plan on continuing that, but I do love it. I love to write. I've written for tech blogs in the past. I love reviewing like tech gear. I've been paid for it in the past, which was awesome. And yeah, gear reviews too. I like outdoorsy stuff, so I enjoy running like gear reviews about outdoors gear and tech gear. So yeah, once in a while I'll get down and I'll hammer out an article and post it up. So yeah, it's something I enjoy.
What's the worst piece of tech gear that you've come in contact with lately? Just absolute junk.
Oh man, gosh, I don't know. You know, I've always kind of been the one to kind of get, you know, if I'm going to spend money on something, it's going to be the good stuff.
Hey.
So yeah. I haven't, you know, it's always, I own a lot of iOS, Apple stuff, only because it is the best kind of stuff that's out there. So I run into like cheap stuff, like gadgets that just don't work after a couple of days. Even like running gear, stuff that I get for running I usually I do a lot of the research and stuff before I buy it. So I'm not usually one to kind of go out and get stuff like on a whim. So I kind of the nerd that goes out and does research on the web and before I get stuff like that. So I really haven't run into anything that's really let me down. Like I said, I own mostly all Apple stuff, which has really worked out well. So I can't think of anything that I run into that's kind of been kind of really crappy recently anyway. I used for the first time started using like GoPro and handheld video stuff. Like DJI has the DJI a DJI handheld device, which is kind of cool with a gimbal on it. So I enjoy using those.
I saw one of those on the website, and that looked pretty slick. I'm not sure if that's the one you're speaking about. It was white, but it was the gimbal small camera.
Yeah.
Trail run, something or another it was advertised as, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I just recently started getting into that. Again, research on what the best stuff was out there, and GoPro, of course, you can't really beat for the adventure stuff. I was doing a lot of all these stuff, so I took that stuff on my runs and did a lot of filming on live filming during running and all that, which is really cool, and dunking it in water and all that fun stuff. So,
well, as far as I can tell, I still have a GoPro 3 here. And at that time, they had all this proprietary, I think is the right term, like extra stuff, kind of like Apple does, you know what I mean? You buy the device, but you got to buy the 15 other things sort of stuff. But still to this day, it works great. And I've heard that what are they on, Model 9 or something? I don't even know now. But I heard that
the newer one,
so much of it is integrated now, from the back screen to touches to an extra battery, that the new ones are just absolutely just out of this world. They're just really great and worth the bucks.
I think I own one of the earlier models. I think the GoPro 8 or something. I think it was. Yeah. I mean, it seems every few months they come up with something new, and pretty amazing what they cram in these things nowadays. Back when I was photoing for JStreet, I think cameras were just coming. Digital photography really wasn't a thing. I got my first digital camera for JStreet, and it was this giant SD card that was in this camera. It was a Sony camera at the time. The digital camera is shot like, I don't even think a megabyte was even invented at the time. But 640 by 480 like photos and stuff, really crappy. And now they cram these things in like little tiny eyeball size cameras, are just amazing. Yeah.
These kids don't know how lucky it is, man. I remember going to shows with the shoulder cam, JVC, like, you know what I'm saying? And like,
yep.
It's insane what they're packing into, the watch, just along that, along with everything else. It's, I don't know. As far as that, we've lived through, I mean, we're getting pretty old, but we've lived through a few generations of some cool advancements in tech, and it's pretty cool to see where it's come, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you doing for fun these days now that the world is slowly opening up? What are you doing with your free time? Anything fun these days?
Yeah, well, with COVID, I didn't run as much. A lot of the races I had planned kind of got canceled and whatnot. So I'm slowly kind of getting back into that training. Funny, I picked up fishing again because I stopped fishing. I used to fish like bass tournaments and stuff way back in the day with a club, and I stopped doing that when I picked up, got heavy into running and writing and all that other stuff. So yeah, I picked that up recently, kind of refreshing all my gear and going out and doing a little bass fishing once in a while. So and I work in IT, so everybody has been working from home, and now that everybody's kind of easing back into the office, things are getting really busy there. People freaking out because a lot of their stuff isn't working, and so that's always fun.
Well, you're in the right place to do it, man. I mean, you're still in Lake County, and I mean, there's so many spots out there. My brother is still in that area, and he goes out fishing all the time. So it's definitely a nice
Yeah,
hobby
no,
to have.
it's been amazing. Yeah, I love picking it back up because I used to do that almost if I wasn't doing anything else. It was pretty much fishing, so I enjoy that. And it's sport fishing, which is not just the kind of fishing that you just kind of sit and throw a pole out, but it's just sport fishing, kind of traveling around and I have a dream to get a kayak at one point and use that hopefully next year and do a little fishing out of that. So yeah, I'm loving it. Yeah, it's something that I had a passion for in the past. So I'm kind of rediscovering that again, just like I did with running.
That's awesome.
So I used to run when I was younger, and I stopped that for a long time, for many years. And I saw my sister run a half marathon, and I picked it back up again after watching her.
That's a great segue. I mean, part of the show is kind of a bridge from some of the passions that I have. And one of the questions on here that I knew we would be able to relate in is your passion for running, because it's something that, you definitely have gotten into a lot more over the years. And one of my questions was like, when did that obsession start? And would it be, like you were saying, when you were younger?
Yeah, I was young, as a teen, high school, grade school, whatever. I used to run with my dad, occasionally just short distances. And I mentioned I saw my younger sister run a half marathon a number of years ago and saw her finish it. I hadn't run for a number of years before that, and I got inspired to start again. I got home, I got some old running shoes from the department store, ran around the block, nearly passed out. So out of shape. So and I slowly after that started running like 5Ks, and ended up with like 9 marathons. And then I think in 2017 I discovered trail running, which is, I used to be a road runner for a long time. A friend invited me out to a trail run in Devil's Lake, I think Wisconsin it was. And these are trails. So they're not, it's not like what you would find at like a forest preserve or something. These are actually forested trails, hiking trails, and ran a half marathon on a trail run and fell in love with trail running. And that kind of moved into running longer distances beyond a marathon, which is ultra running. And I ran my first 50 mile not long after that. I think 2018, I think that was. 50 mile run took me like I think it was like 12 hours to finish that thing. And I fell in love with it. It was awesome. Yeah. And I love the run. I love the piece of it. I love the quiet. I love with ultra running, it's a very solo sport. So I enjoy the quiet and running out in the woods with the trails and all that. And it's been a passion of mine, and I still do it.
Well, I mean, we've known each other for a few years now, and over the years that I've seen, it's just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed into something huge. And like you said, you've done a ton of these marathons. It's awesome to see it just to go to where it is. That obsession has definitely grown and grown and grown, and it's awesome to see you kicking as much butt as you have over the years and just really crushing it. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I love introducing new people to it. When running a lot of these races and whatnot, a lot of the newer runners. And part of the blog, the blog that I have has a lot of running in it. And I love kind of telling people about that and introducing them to that kind of stuff, which is kind of a passion of mine too. So, getting people moving. It's awesome.
Do you collect anything?
Do I collect anything?
I mean, other than, you're probably like 4 or 5 totes of, CDs and cassette tapes and whatnot out in the storage. But do you collect anything fun these days or anything like that?
Lately, I've been hunting around for Transformers, like the old school Transformers from like the original Transformers.
Yeah.
I owned like a lot of them way back when I was younger as a kid, and I ended up selling them or giving them away to a family member or something, which I regret. So yeah, once in a while, my sister will find one, or somebody will find one, and they'll kind of hand it over. So yeah, that's kind of been something I've been playing around with lately. Besides collecting gadgets and electronics, which I love, that's kind of something I've been kind of trying to get back into, because I love that stuff, man. I used to love that stuff.
I always envisioned your junk drawer at home was just like old school Palm Pilots and Nokia phones and just nothing but
It is.
tech
That's
gear.
one junk drawer. One junk drawer is all that stuff. The rest of it is toys. I have a kind of secret passion for toys and stuff. Transformers, especially. I love, and that stuff, man, is going for like hundreds of dollars these days. It's amazing. Like $200 for something like Optimus Prime at the time. I mean, I own that guy, and that thing's worth like $200 to $300 now, even more in some cases.
This is making me beyond happy because we've known each other for a while, and there's obviously parallels that we both enjoy. But I have gotten into collecting over the past couple of years to obsessive lengths. And I never knew that was something that you were into, and we'll have to talk more about that in the future. You'll have to show me what your collection's looking like so far, because I want to know how bad down the rabbit hole you are. But
yeah, my prize one was Soundwave, which was the recorder that transformed into like a tape recorder, and he had the little cassette cartridges that turned into like various flying like birds and dinosaurs and whatnot. So yeah, that's my prize position right now. That guy's awesome. Look it up if you don't know Transformers Soundwave.
I'll put a picture right here of it, or take a picture of the collection and I'll flash it. This is hilarious. I mean, part of my office is like, this is my workstation. You know, it's all music based because that's pretty much all I do. But the other side of this is all collectible toys and all kinds of stuff. So this is I never knew there was a passion, man. That is hilarious. And
yeah, I'll show this. I don't know if you can see that. This is an X-Files shrine I have, which I kind of made many years ago. I was very into the X-Files, so I have this little poster board with all the various magazine cutouts and whatnot that I kind of accumulated. I was in the X-Files club for a long time, X-Files fan club, so I collected like everything X-Files. I even ordered like a magazine from like overseas that had like all the characters in it and whatnot. So
do you still have all this, or did you part ways?
Oh yeah, I still have everything. Yeah, no, I have everything.
Dude, you gotta show me. You gotta show me some pictures of your collection room. I'll do the same here. This is blowing my mind. This is so funny. This is great.
Yeah, it was a huge X-Phile, XPHILE that they called us at the time. So, yeah, I was like, even the new movies, like the new shows that came out, they resurrected it a couple of years ago, and I sucked all that in. That was amazing. So yeah, I love that stuff. That's my other collection I have is X-Files paraphernalia, magazines and cutouts and fan club. I have like the playing cards. I have a bunch of those too. So yeah, I love that stuff. The videos, on VHS. On VHS, I have it on DVD, I have it on Blu-ray, and the digital versions of all the X-Files stuff. So,
dude, this is so funny. Oh, you know,
yeah.
For those that don't know, Jesse was a coworker of mine. We worked at Jstreetradio, which brought you the best of the best local music. We had a podcast and a radio show that we worked together for about 7 years. But Jesse has been doing Jstreetzine for forever, and I knew that putting Jesse on here would be great because I wanted to introduce you to a guy that is a huge part of my childhood and just a huge part of my life for a lot of years. And he's always got great nuggets of information to throw out there and talk about. And what's funny is that other guests, we have these parallels and other things that connect. And it's so funny because I knew bringing you on here would be good for so many reasons. But a lot of the guests that I'm talking about are connected to the collecting that I do, and it's so funny that I never even knew that about you. It's just this whole other parallel there that we can kind of unearth, and that's just hilarious, man. I love it.
Yeah, well, back when we were working together, just collecting music, which was a passion, of course. Well, you know that. So,
Dude,
Um,
I mentioned this before. Where is it? I've been going through CDs here today, just kind of going through the old stuff, and I've given a bunch of stuff away. I sent Mooney a box lately with like LCRC CDs, the Popcorn CD, earlier, Overtone, stuff like that. But I found this that I thought I would show. I think this is the origins of me running into J Street, because my story with J Street is huge, but this was from the Round Lake Social Club in Round Lake, which I know some people will tune in from our past to see this, and they'll just crack up singing Cake
yeah,
and Gleek. The date on here is 1999. At least that's what the MapQuest link says at the bottom. So I think it was around that time. I'm not too sure. But man, I mean, how much local music do you have in your storage?
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say I still have all the DVDs from all the bands. I mean, it's got to be thousands of music of it's just all local music. That's all I listen to. You know, nowadays I'll listen to some of the more popular stuff. I do have playlists of the modern stuff, but I still listen to the old school stuff like almost daily. Um, it was just so great. The music at the time that was coming out was just amazing. So never got old, never gets old, never will get old.
It's got that level of nostalgia because we grew up with it, and we grew up through so many different cliques and different eras of these different types of bands. But we were proved time and time and again, and we can sit back and maybe give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back, but there was some good music coming through there, and it wasn't just our opinion. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we were miscued by our adolescence when listening to it. There was some really good songwriters that came through there, and once the internet became at our disposal and we started bringing in local music from everywhere, it's unreal. One of my questions on here was to ask you, like, what's the latest thing you've streamed or latest thing you purchased, or anything of the sort. But part of me is really happy to hear that you're still listening to the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really all the stuff that we know from the J Street days is still on my. I've digitized a lot of it now, so it's occasionally. I think the Jstreetradio page is still up on Facebook. Once in a while, a band will chime in with stuff, and they'll hit me up, wondering if I'm still doing it, and they'll send me a couple things here and there. But yeah, all the old stuff, man, I still play. It's on rotation like all the time.
Heck yeah.
And, I mean, what can I say about Lake County music? I mean, it was such an amazing time to be into music, especially with Lake County music. 2000, 2001, 2002. Those years. Yeah, it was just amazing, and very, very privileged, very happy to have been a part of that whole era.
Yeah, there were couple different years there, couple different cliques, like I mentioned, and it was interesting. Mm-hmm. It's also interesting to get older and to submerge yourself into different music scenes and see some of the similarities of some of the stuff that we did, bands did, as well as some of the differences that areas never had and people never took the advantage of, where we could look back and be like, man, we were lucky. Like, I was lucky to have a Jesse Mendoza, more than I can express, and a lot of people didn't have people with that kind of passion, and it was a special time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ever since the internet and social media and Facebook and all that kind of came in, I think a lot of that magic got lost with bands, passing around flyers and seeing them at shows, and bands had to work pretty hard to get noticed, and I think that's what I loved about that. People being really passionate about getting their music out there, and that's something I loved. I loved help doing for bands. I did it for free, never got paid, never made money off of it, and it was just a passion. So yeah, very, very. It was just awesome to be around at that time. It was just amazing.
Once again,
Yeah.
forgive me for the mistake, and I just appreciate you coming by, man. It's really nice to see you. I haven't seen you in forever. It's just nice to talk shit and, say what's
Yeah,
up, man.
absolutely, man. It's good to see you as well.
Yeah, it's been too long. I've been to Illinois a couple times, but I can't do the weather. I have this old man body. It sucks, so I've just been gone. But I am coming back soon, so we'll have to go grab some lunch or do something fun, man. It'll be nice to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't go for that.
What's the best running shoes? Is there a brand that's the best? And I know there's like hiking shoes and trailing shoes, and then there's walking shoes and all this other stuff. But you, over the years, and because of how into things you are, Transformers, dude, I'm still freaking out over that. With running shoes, you've had to have purchased so many over the years. What is your go-to?
Yeah, I use like the Hoka brand of running shoes. Hoka One, I think as they pronounce it. Yeah, those are. I mean, running shoes are individual for really when people ask me that, they kind of recommend just go to like a running shop and just kind of get them fitted for them because they're so unique to people.
Come
to
on,
try them
come
out for a
on.
while.
I know all
Yeah.
that, but there's got to be a brand out there that is completely shredded on you, or a brand out there that is like built. What's the saying? Built for tough. You know what I mean? There's got to be one of those.
Yeah, the Hoka brand of shoes.
Yeah.
Those are popular shoes. The trail version, which I run in, the Hoka, Challenger shoes, Challenger ATR shoes are awesome. Any of the Hoka brand shoes, they're highly more cushioned shoe. And me being an older dude now, the knees can't take as much pounding, so those kind of they're more of a cushioned shoe. So I like those a lot, and those are the ones I recommend for people that are having trouble with knee pain or whatever, or issues like that. Those are an awesome brand.
Well, I hope to be able to bring in some listeners from your side of the pond as well as mine too. So I ask for their benefit, but I also ask selfishly because unfortunately my old man body is falling apart, and I find myself wearing stepdad New Balance shoes, and because it's the only thing that work. But I've been through some runners and things like that, trail shoes that kind of do give a little bit more support. So selfishly, thank you as always, as I should be taking your advice, because I'm going to have to check those out because my body can't take normal people's shoes anymore. I ask this question to everyone because I'm talking to people inside and outside of the industry, and you worked in kind of a special thing in the music industry, but your day job's a little bit different. But I ask this question to everyone because everyone has their own individual answer, and I think it's just good to kind of throw out there. And that question is, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's just so much to learn pretty much about everything. I think that's probably the most important thing is just keep learning about stuff, and then knowing everything you can about what you're good at, right? Or what you're best at. Like for me, it's like computer stuff, or I worked in IT pretty much all my life, and it's always a constant learning involved there. Or even with like stuff like running, constantly reading what all the new technologies that are out there, and so that I can run better and finish all my ultra marathons, successfully, and still be alive to talk about it. And yeah, I think it's just taking in all the information possible on what you have a passion for, I think, and try to be good at what you're best at. Absolutely.
You're a humble and modest guy, man. Everything you do it to your best of your ability. I know you come from a punk rock background, and you give it your all, which is definitely very fucking punk rock. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that whole era. Yeah, even going through all that taught me, just having a passion for something was, kept me happy, and look forward to getting up the next day, looking forward to what came next. So, and I think that's pretty important for people to make sure you have a passion for something, whether it's running, whether it's walking 30 minutes a day or whatever it is. Just make sure that you do it, and it makes you happy. So I think that's pretty important.
Well, speaking of passions, we'll start steering gears over to JStreet. Why did you start JStreet?
Why did I start JStreet? Well, originally it was actually a newsletter for my band at the time. I think it was 1991. My band, Gainsay, played our first show at a basement at a building that my family owned on the corners of Grand and Jackson Street in Waukegan, which is why it's called J Street, because the J stands for Jackson Street, which is the very first venue that we played at. Played in the basement. We knocked down a couple of walls, put some mattresses up for what we thought at the time was soundproofing, and invited a couple of bands and trashed the place, knocked down some ceiling tiles, and and at the door I collected a bunch of names that people came in that wanted to sign up for the newsletter, for my band's newsletter at the time. And that grew into mailing out paper, writing out updates on my band at the time, and just sending letters at the time. Letters were a big thing at the time. Just send letters and to the people on the mailing list, and from there it kind of grew into as we got to know more bands and played with more bands, and myself wanted to tell people about these bands. It kind of grew into more of like a newsletter of kind of writing about some of the bands that we were playing with, and then from there it grew into what was the paper fanzine at the time, J Street, which went out to like 300 subscribers, I think we had at the time. It was pretty amazing. I used to back then it was all, there weren't computers really were that popular at the time. Of course, I'm dating myself again. You couldn't really get computers and word processors or anything, so it was all like actual like cut and paste stuff. So I would
copy machine, put them all together.
I would you would either handwrite the articles or you type them out on an actual typewriter, and you type them out, and I would just cut them out with scissors, the articles out with scissors, and I'd take a blank page and I'd lay it all out as what you would see what you would see like a magazine would be now. Lay it all out and kind of lay all the articles out, and then whatever pictures I took at the time, they were just, you'd go get them developed, and they'd come back, and color ones didn't come out right, so you had to get them all in black and white. So they'd come out on a copy, and I would, I put the zine all together, and I was working like third shift at the time, and I would sneak it. It was like some corporate job. I think it was like HR or something. I would sneak into the copy room at night during third shift, and I would run like hundreds of copies of my zine. It was just a one page at the time. I'd run like 100 pages, hundreds of pages of this thing at the copy machine at work at night during third shift.
Now,
unbeknownst to people, and
some of these early J Street zines, they were all one colors. I'll put some pictures up from some of the photos we have.
Mm-hmm.
Were those all one color and black and white, mainly because the photos wouldn't come out correctly?
No, it was just for fun.
Okay.
It started out on a copier, black and white, because that's all there was at the time. Mm-hmm. There weren't any color copiers, so I would run copies and print hundreds of them, and then I'd get friends to staple them together if they needed stapling, and stuff them in envelopes, and then mail them out. But then as the subscribers grew, I hunted down a printer local in Waukegan, some old guy with a little print shop, and I think he just asked me, "Do you want these in colors?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" So I contracted him to print a bunch. Once this is when it was like multiple pages at the time, it kind of grew to like 4, 5, 7 pages. And yeah, they were just in color just because I felt like it.
It's so funny that you say you had to sneak in to be able to print these out, and we are doing it like guerrilla style, because at the time I was at J Street, I was doing the exact same thing at CLC.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that came from before J Street. I used to manage a bicycle trick team, and yeah, this was like way back. Like people weren't even alive, probably. And the skate team as well. We used to go around and perform in Waukegan, like various festivals. And a friend and I started like a zine, a paper zine, showcasing a lot of this stuff, skateboarding and bike freestyle and trick riding and whatnot. It was the same thing, cut and paste, typewriter, written out, and we put it together. I forget what it was called, but my section was like pavement players, which was basically bicycles, skateboarding.
That arrangement is super punk rock, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at old school punk players; they've been doing it forever. But it raises the question, like, is that where you like got that idea from? You think, or was this something that?
That's exactly what it is.
Oh,
That's exactly where it came from. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we used to run again copies of that fanzine out on copiers and give it away to people when we at some of the events that we did parades and whatnot, parades and festivals, and we passed the zine out. And I would write some articles, and my friend would write articles and take pictures and stuff like that. And yeah, and J Street wasn't around at the time, and that's where that came from, that idea of starting a zine and learning applying what I learned from doing that to J Street. Yeah.
That is awesome, man. I've never heard that before, so that's quite interesting. That's a nice little gem there.
Yeah, it was all, like you said, guerrilla style. I guess that's a good way to explain it, pretty much.
Oh yeah, total DIY.
Yeah, as DIY as you could be.
Yeah. Have you completely checked out of the local music scene, just completely these days?
I would say yes. J Street is still, like, the J Street page on Facebook is still up. Once in a while, I'll get contacted by a band and whatnot, and they'll send me a song or two. But yeah, I haven't really been to any shows or anything. It's something I would love to get back into once all this COVID stuff clears. Go back to looking at some local shows and seeing what's out there again. Absolutely. But yeah, it's mostly just listening to music that I had from way back. So
nice. Why did J Street never make an audio compilation?
Audio compilation? Well, we didn't make an audio compilation besides the podcast that we were doing for Jstreetradio, but we were part of or promoted compilations that were around at the time. But yeah, we never really, there were ideas to do that, but we never really put together something like that. There were other people doing stuff like that for Lake County music at the time, so we just kind of jumped on it to help promote it.
Looking back, what shows come to mind immediately? Because J Street, hosted a bunch, but we also, did events at so many different shows, just so many different shows over the years. Are there any that just pop out immediately to you?
Yeah, I always come back to the Metro shows, the Lake County showcases at the Metro. Those happened, I think, in 2001. Yeah, we had the Lake County Record Collective, was a collective in Lake County that was just a collective of bands that kind of worked together to work out a press kit to send to Metro, because they wanted kind of like an idea on what we were all about. They had heard about the Lake County scene, of course, and I think we put together a kit for them and we sent it off to them. Yeah, and we got bands got booked to do a show at the Metro. I think it was in August, winter 2001, I think it was. Somewhere around there, 2000, 2001. Yeah, and those were the peak, man. Those were amazing shows. I think the first Metro show we did, it was like in dead of winter. Like a blizzard came through that night.
But it's still sold out, I think, right?
And it sold out, yep. And people just came out from everywhere, and it was just amazing. I think those just stand out, because I think there were a couple of them. There were like 2 or 3 of those showcases that happened, and those stand out as some of the better ones. Yeah, not only because they were at Metro, but there were some gems too that happened, of course, in some of the grimier basement venues that I remember very well. So, Lake County VFW, or the Lake Villa VFW in Lake Villa, had some of the better local shows, I think. Rule 22 and those guys at the time were hooked up with some really good bands. It brought some amazing bands through that were on tour. That was a really great venue to be at.
Yeah, a few of those venues really brought some interesting bands to the mix, some fun stuff. But those Metro shows specifically, that was the height of a lot of those bands, careers at that time. And that was
that was pretty much the peak of, I think, of what local music Lake County at the time was. I think that was amazing.
I actually think I have a ticket stub from one of those shows.
Yeah, it was the out by
Knuckle
Vacation
Duster?
Bible School and Knuckle Duster. Makeshift Overtone. Those bands, played the Metro.
So when I posted about this, even over the years, I mean, I got the same response now that I've gotten before, and it's always hilarious because my introduction to J Street is very similar to a lot of other people's introduction, and I wrote this: doing Jstreetzine helped a number of people in the Lake County area. So many up-and-coming musicians got drive and inspiration from the bands you guys would showcase. Many of those bands disbanded and became old and gray, though many of those musicians are actually still making music to this day. When I was reaching out to the public to get some questions about this interview, the amount of people who shared my exact experience with J Street was overwhelming. How does it feel to know that you've helped mold these musicians, or mold these people into having, how do I put it, like a musical journey that still sticks with them to this day? Like, how does that feel to be able to sit back and, despite any cons, know that it's like, my efforts definitely were heard for years by a number of different people, and they were excited for the show and happy about what we did and look forward to it. I mean, that's gotta, looking back, you gotta feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's amazing. I mean, I get that occasionally when I bump into people. A lot of them, quite a few are still playing these days. And I mean, from Jstreetzine, the television show, to the radio show, to the paper zine, to the website and all that, and we touched a lot of bands, and it was, I never made any money off of it. I never asked for money, and it was just more about the passion of letting the world know what we were all about up here in Lake County and, general Chicago area. There was a lot of great music coming out at the time, and it was just a passion to let people know what was going on. And we touched a lot of people, and I still get that from bands that are appreciative of those efforts. And it wasn't only me; we had staff like you and Sam Gordon and Aaron and Razor, Sean Gillette, all the folks that helped out with putting together the paper zine at the time that I would bribe with beer or whatnot to help me put all that out. All were part of that amazing era, and I'm indebted to those people, to helping out, really, for volunteering and for not really just because they had a passion to do it just like I did. And it's amazing to hear, and it's a point in my life that I'll never forget, for sure.
I don't know if I'm a good interviewer or a bad interviewer. I love the podcast feel, and I love just talking to people that I admire and have a mutual respect for. I'm always bad at giving like introductions and things like that, but it is worth noting, and we should just say that Jstreetzine, like you said, was this e-zine that became a website, and at that time the website was out. There was no MySpace, there was no any of this stuff. The website was a huge hub for a lot of people, not only for reviews, blogs, but places for bands to be able to put their music up, put links there, and kind of like terrestrial radio, they have a filter that's influenced by major labels because of what region they're in and what they're trying to market at that time. Well, J Street had its own filtering process, but we were bringing you the best of the best. So you knew when you heard something in that website, it was going to be something good. And there were kids all over the place looking there and relying on good stuff. And from there, JstreetTV and public access was huge, which we'll definitely be talking about that in 2 seconds because that question's coming. And then eventually, went to Jstreetradio. And Jesse's been pursuing local music for a huge chunk of his life. And for those that don't know, he is a huge staple in the Lake County music scene and has been for a long time, not only in his own personal projects, but touching a bunch of different bands and affiliations over the years. So if you're not familiar with Jesse, hopefully by the time we're done with this interview, you get a little bit more of a background into who the brain is over here. But speaking to some of these points, you've seen a lot in your day, old man. Just kidding. From albums to singles, from CDs to streaming, from Friendster to Snapchat to TikTok, so much more. What are your thoughts on music's current evolution over the past few years and what it's looking like today?
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to the J Street days, bands had to work pretty hard to get their name out there. Whether it was making flyers, sneaking into copy rooms and making flyers and passing them out.
Bringing donuts to shows.
Exactly that. Yeah. Being at shows and passing out flyers and spending thousands of dollars on recordings only to give them away for free. My band did that. Doing the footwork to get all that done. Bands, it was at the time, bands would reach out to J Street and says, "Can we get our music on your shows and whatnot?" And says, and we welcome that, of course. Those bands had, they wanted to get their name out there. Ever since the evolution of towards the end of Jstreetradio's era, Facebook started to come in and social media. And I think bands got a little more lazier. Maybe they didn't go to shows and pass out flyers. It was more about sending Facebook invites right to your shows and whatnot. So a lot of that kind of fell to the wayside. There are people and bands that still do that, of course, and still did that. But I think that kind of fell, all that footwork and legwork that happened back in the day just kind of fell to the wayside when social and Facebook and all that came around, and you can just upload your song to like a sound site and people stream it right away. And that was a good way to get your music out. But having a real CD, getting handed a CD is different, and it's just it feels different, and it felt a lot better at the time. But yeah, I mean, things evolve, and bands were looking to hit it big at the time. Some bands did, other bands didn't, and we were there to help them. But yeah, I think nowadays, things are different. I've been kind of out of the loop on local music for a long time, so I can't really talk on what bands are doing nowadays. But back then, that's how it was, and bands, we were working harder to find the bands and find the music towards the end there, when it was really the other way around in the early days. So, but not to say that it wasn't out there, but it was just harder to find because bands weren't doing the legwork to get their name out there, because they were, you'd have to be on Facebook all the time, and that's the reason, you know, band websites kind of fell to the wayside. You know, each band had their own website, you know, but now it's all Facebook. If it's not on Facebook, you know, then you can't get your name out there or whatever it was at the time.
And even that has its woes. And it's not to say that people who enjoy instant gratification, like you're saying, they got to go out and buy a CD versus buying something else. It's not to say that that's a bad thing. It doesn't have its pros.
No, it's. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Well, not at all.
It's a great vehicle nowadays. Yeah, but it was different from what we were used to doing. But nowadays, bands that are good at that, like yourself, that could take advantage of that medium, know how to do it, and know how to do it well, can really profit from that and be successful at it.
There are levels of being profitable at it, and it does take, you know, its own level of hard work.
It's the same as going to shows and doing the footwork and handing out flyers. You got to really know that to make sure your bands are in touch on what you're doing, you know, and those vehicles like Facebook and those sites are good for that. And as long as the bands are up on that, you know, it works for them.
Maybe it's my ideology. Maybe it's the music that I write. I don't know what it is, but I still, to this day and age, think that there is no replacement. And all these things are fine and great, but there's too much white noise. People don't even click on sponsored ads, yet you put out something on your band page for somebody who follows you, and they don't even see it because of algorithms and because of everyone else wanting to make money. There's still nothing better than hard work, knocking on doors, talking to people, getting out there, giving them a donut at a show. You know what I mean? Going that extra mile to do something, I think it still means a lot, and it's still there, but I don't know. I don't know if we're just old and the difference is just odd to us, but I don't think we're the only ones. I think a lot of people are a little upset with how things are sitting in this day and age compared to what they could be. Not maybe compared to what they were, but what they could be. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And people remember you when you go up and hand them a flyer or a CD or whatever it is at the time. You know, they'll remember your face and they'll know your band, and bands are really good at it. And the media, all these resources we have now are just as good, except it's all digital. But you can be good at it and make yourself known. And you have to evolve, of course. You know, back then, well, you know, it was all a lot of hard work.
For sure. Well, coming from somebody who's still struggling, it's still hard work. But let's keep going.
I don't doubt that at all.
As far as music that was played on Jstreetradio, who are some of the bands that you still fondly listen to today? Now, I know you say you listen to a lot of it, but are there any? What are the top 5 that you refer back to, or that, you know what I'm saying? Are there any of the Jesse's top 5 favorite from back in the day? Top 5 releases or top 5 something like that?
Yeah, well, some of the bands that put out, you know, quality albums, like the Elvi and Overtone, even Knuckle Duster and those bands, and Ava or Miriam Ava at the time, put out some quality albums that still stand the test of time today. And not only do they sound good, but there's just amazing music, writing music, you know.
I know it might be hard, and I think I already know the answer to this, but Jstreetzine, from the paper to the office building, to jstreetzine.com, to JstreetTV, to JstreeTradio. This has spanned over like 20 years and many different clicks. What is the best? I mean, you can probably like each medium in their own right, but what do you think was the best time? Am I right to say probably the website, transitioning from the TV website before Jstreetradio? Do you think that was like the height of it for you?
Yeah, the TV show, the public access show that was going on, that came after the website, or during the website. That was a lot of fun.
Yo, it's Green Dog here, and you're watching Jstreetzine TV. Yeah. Put some medicine on it. Yeah.
Because working with friends, Waukegan Cine Arts at the time, Theophilus and Jay Stephen, who were doing the video components of a lot of that stuff. Was an amazing time. Yeah, because we'd go out to shows. We actually go to shows and film them, and we do the editing and put them up on public broadcast on cable. I don't know how many shows we ran. We ran quite a few of them, a lot of them, and those are fun times because we had a studio in Waukegan, the cable access studio. We'd invite bands to go in there to perform, or we would go out to do the shows and videotape them there and do the interviews on video. And or Jstreet the zine, you would see them in photos and whatnot, but the video you'd actually see them perform, which is really awesome to see. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that a radio show is radio. Of course, you can't really see them, but watching them perform and live on television was pretty awesome.
Yeah, they each, in their own respect, had their own fun things. The interviews on the radio was fun. Even the in-studio performances were a gas a lot of the time. And even doing from the e-zine of being more of a punk rock era to growing into what it was. But it seemed like that era right where, like you were saying, TV and the website were just right in there. Seemed like that was the heyday, you know what I mean? Which leads me to ask, and you knew this question was coming, have you finally started to digitalize the old JstreetTV VHS tapes? I've only been asking for 12 years now, when in the world will this happen? And before you answer, people should know that these tapes hold some absolute gems on them.
Yeah, I still have them. I think it more comes down to not having the right technology to do them. But yeah, one of these days there are a couple that are digitized already.
I don't believe you. It's taken too long. I've asked you too much. I will buy you the converters, man. People need to see that. You've got, for people who don't know, I mean, and this will lead me to a next question. I mean, it's not even like big bands. I mean, there were some big bands that went through there. I'll ask you next about that. But just some of these performances from some of these live bands, just capturing the venues. There's a few YouTube channels that put out a lot of early local music, even local, bigger bands that are playing. And JstreetTV was no stranger to it. And I vividly remember seeing some amazing stuff on there from some bigger bands. And, I should just say from some great bands. But lots of musicians have made their mark on the world after coming through J Street. Would you say that Local H was the biggest band that has come through J Street that you can remember?
Yeah, we didn't. Local H, was definitely, of course, a breakthrough band out of Lake County scene, of course, from Zion. Local H, I was more before J Street came around, because when my band Gainsay started playing in like the early 90s, before J Street, well, of course, Local H was making a name for themselves. I think the scene back then in Waukegan and Lake County was more on the metal side. And there were some punk bands, but it was more a lot of heavy metal bands. And Local H was just starting to come up then. Yeah, and we did a couple of shows with them. But they were kind of before the J Street time. But yeah, out of an overall like Lake County band, that was the biggest one.
And there were some other big ones. I mean, we did get the opportunity of playing some bands that did get signed. I remember Monster Trucks got into Guitar World from that same kind of same generation, but a few other ones. But looking back on it, I think Local H is the one that was probably the one that made the biggest noise, even though we might.
Yeah, I remember
close to heart.
Joe, it was the drummer at the time, Joe Daniels.
Yeah,
I think the initial drummer woke me up one morning and just called me and he said, "Dude, we just got signed to a record label." And he had mentioned it was an affiliate of Island Records at the time, which was, I'm a big U2 fan. And of course, U2 was with Island Records at the time. I'm like, my jaw just kind of dropped. So yeah, that was pretty amazing to have him call me and tell me that news was pretty awesome. And it was after that, man, they hit it big. It was amazing to see. Yeah. J Street again wasn't around then, but my band was playing, and played a couple of shows with them, and they organized some shows in Waukegan. Um, Gabe Rodriguez, I think, was part of that band. He's still around, managing Local H, I think, or doing stuff with Local H. Not managing Local H, but doing stuff with them. He was doing shows too at the time, a lot of hardcore shows, and he was pretty big part of that scene as well during that time. Yeah, 90s, 91, late 90s, late 80s.
Do you think you will ever revisit J Street in any capacity?
Well, I know you had mentioned compilations before. I have dreams of gathering all of the recordings from Jstreetradio and putting them like in a compilation kind of situation at some point. I think we'll be celebrating 30 years of J Street this year. I don't have anything planned, but that's kind of crossed my mind as I was preparing for this. Yeah, I had thoughts of maybe doing some kind of a memorial, event or show, or, the Art Walk series in Waukegan, which is pretty big back then, are still happening. And, had thoughts of doing something, there at some point. This is all just kind of swirling around in my head. But yeah, I think there's so many photos and music and stuff that people haven't seen that are still in my archives, thousands of them. And, someday I think, maybe we'll pull them all together and showcase them somehow, somewhere.
Well, let me throw an
even now the shows for the podcast, some of the shows that people didn't hear at the time, haven't heard yet. Some amazing performances. Of course, you were there, so yeah, it'd be awesome to get those all on a digitized and out there to listen to.
Well, let me slap an ad on it, and I'll cover half the domain cost, and let's just make like an archival website. Because as soon as the word gets out there, I think getting the rights to music and getting stuff won't even be a difficult thing. And I think people would like that, especially if you can do a compilation of the performances and stuff like that. Because we got some good stuff, and that's just not being biased. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is the Aaron Mooney lightning round. After spending years on the radio, do you still have love for radio, or has using Jazzler and all these other things, did they kill you from listening to radio for a while?
No, I don't listen to radio much. Radio XM, is that radio? Sirius XM,
I guess.
I recently started listening. With Sirius XM because I got a car with that has a subscription for it. So, and it's been fun kind of going around discovering some of these shows. I know there's some shows that have local music on that, which I've been kind of dabbling with, playing around. So yeah, finding some of that, it's been kind of fun.
What platform do you listen to the most these days as far as any music is concerned? I know you listen to a lot of old stuff, so you're probably playing it through iTunes since you do Apple. But, I mean, do you use Spotify a lot, Bandcamp, any of these types of things?
It's Spotify. Bandcamp for the sound. Some of the other, Bandcamp is a big one, but Spotify, sometimes, like I said, bands will hit me up to listen to some of their music out of SoundCloud, stuff like that. Bandcamp, yeah, those are awesome.
Were there any bands you regretted having on the show?
Regretted having on the show?
Yeah.
That's a tough question. I don't think so. Regret in a way on the radio show, regret in the way that it caused so much cost that it was hard to manage the show at the time. I think who was it? One of the shows was just so crazy. We had so many. Dr. Manhattan comes to mind as a local band at the time on the radio show. We got them on. Super popular band, and they did put out I think they're another band that got really big too.
Mm-hmm.
And that show was so chaotic, so many calls. It was an amazing show. It was a fun show, but I don't regret them having them on, but in a way that it was just, as producer of the show at the time, it was hard to keep together because it was so crazy. But it wasn't a regret per se, but it was one of the ones that come to mind as being one of the more crazier shows at the time that I knew going into that interview was going to be crazy because the band was so popular at the time. So it was one of our better shows.
Do you think that you helped any of the band's careers progress, like J Street specifically? Do you know of any bands that maybe use that as a stepping stool? I mean, I think that's a pretty vague question because I think it did help a lot of people, helped a lot of press kits, helped a lot of just ears, you know what I mean? Like taking out on there and just knowledge of knowing that they exist. But any directly that you know that it was like, yeah, it's because of J Street. That's why these people were heard. Or this is why this happened kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. And, no, I couldn't really say it was fun. I still, even to this day, seeing J Street being credited in some of the CD sleeves, which was kind of a big thing for me at the time, being mentioned in that as being helping them along in that respect of being credited for something that helped them in some way. That was always fun to see that, and still see it. A lot of that was really fun to see. Some of the credits that showed up, you know, hey, my name is on this guy's CD, which is kind of cool. So that was always fun.
I'm pretty sure, though, from my basic research, I think 3 different musicians have gotten record contracts thrown at them because of our show, because people were able to hear it. Lots of different people have gotten paid because of our show. So even if we weren't making money directly, there were a lot of people booking events based off some of the bands that we would showcase. So
I don't doubt that at all. Yeah,
there was a lot of financial gain had for a lot of bands, good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I mean? But yeah,
absolutely.
It goes without saying. I think that the influence there, we trace it back to a lot of things, but it definitely hit. What would it have taken you to continue the show? You and I have personally had that conversation when it was, you know, when we decided to kind of close the doors on it, but anything you can add to that?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm thinking like passing the reins on to somebody that would do that. Towards the end of the radio show's tenure, you know, like I said, it was getting a little harder to find bands, and bands weren't really reaching out. Finding someone that would host the show to keep going would have been awesome. But I think, you know, at the time, I think it was time to move on. The radio show, yeah, it was fun while it lasted. But what would have kept it going? I don't know. I think it would have been fun to have like a series of like band hosted shows would have been kind of cool. Like have bands host the radio show for the next like few months after the show's end per se.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I don't know anybody else who would have stepped up to do it other than myself to carry the torch. But at that point in time, I think we both felt that it was like, even if we wanted to continue doing something, it's like J Street had to evolve at that time. It was just, I think at that time it was the smart thing to just be like, okay, this is, you know, I think we've done what we're doing. Yeah. And now we just got to think,
yeah, and then
what's next kind of thing, you know?
It was, yeah, getting people, ripping people away from Facebook and that little bubble and sites like that was kind of hard, you know, having a separate site like Jstreetzine or even the Tumblr site or whatever, getting people to say, hey, go over here to look at this or read this stuff was getting hard, you know, harder to do. People just wanted to stay in that little Facebook bubble and read their little, you know, the articles in there. It was getting harder to pull people away from those kind of things. I think that was part of it too, was just all the social media and all the different social media websites that were coming up at the time.
I think there's always
was taking people away from,
there's always a place for something like this, even if other scenes do it, or even if you were to take it back, because things ebb and flow. And as much as we can see that there was a struggle there, I think we can also see that we've kind of pulled out of that now, where people are actually nurturing to be looking at something worthwhile and kind of getting out of that social media bubble. Even you and I were kind of caught in for a few years, and as you kind of grow up, and it's just kind of like there's more going on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is.
Why did you cut the show down from 2 hours to 1 hour?
Again, it was coming down to finding bands kind of towards the end there, more content for the show to fill the 2 hours of it towards the latter part of the years. So, I mean, local music, you can only showcase so much, right? Especially when you're focused on a certain kind of area, like Chicago area, or even Lake County focused like we were. There's only so many bands that you can actually showcase before you start repeating a lot of stuff. And we couldn't really we didn't have the funds to bring bands in from out of state or whatever. They would come in when they would tour or whatever sometimes, but it was getting harder to fill the 2 hours with content, basically. And bands, or maybe they'd put out a CD and they'd wait a couple of years to put new content out, so it was getting harder to find that music. So but I think that was a big part of it, was just being able to fill the content on the latter part of J Street shows with a lot of the newer stuff that was out there. So kind of burning through a lot of that stuff, but there was still a lot of music to be heard for sure, but it was getting a little harder to find.
Yeah. I mean, opening up the internet and bringing in bands worldwide, but we're still considered local bands, helped. But it just, from my perspective, from listening and then eventually being on the show, that just the 1 hour platform worked better. It kept things.
It was better, because you could focus a lot better. Yeah.
It cut the questions tight. That everyone knew that. Everyone just got prepared. It seemed like everything could run smooth. We had time for ads and it just seemed way
and again,
more of a 1-2 punch. You know what I mean? Not to say the long-winded wasn't good, but it was just the concise nature of it seemed like it was very fitting.
Yeah, and it was all volunteers. The show, nobody got paid for being there. So I mean, I would spend 2 or 3 days beforehand just prepping for the show, getting all the content together, and then making sure that the hosts were available to do the show for 2 hours a night, was always a challenge, but everyone was kind enough to step forward and do it, which was awesome.
Man, I wish promoters could learn from this, man. Hard work. It makes a big difference. Why is my internet being crappy? All right, hold on. We got a couple more here. Given the platform music is in now, and the strength of the podcast community, do you see a path where J Street could become a national platform or gain national attention or a national audience? Because, I mean, when we were doing podcasting, it was big. But, I mean, we could both sit back and say that it's just exploded, even from the time that we stopped. I mean, were we putting podcasts up for the full, 7 years? And regardless of if it was a full 7 years or not, once that stopped, I mean, the world of podcasting is huge now. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, podcasting was just coming in on its own when we were doing that, and it's exploded now for sure. If J Street merged into a podcast form, it would definitely be something that I would full on be involved in at the time. Yeah, at the time we were just recording the show, whatever came out. There was some minimal editing involved, but it was just straight on through. But yeah, a podcast format now would be amazing to do because it's exploded. Yeah,
it would be interesting to see. I see and have been blessed to be featured on some local music shows that are around now, but there's nothing quite like what we were doing, and it would be interesting to see how it would fit if showcased and marketed differently in this day and age, just because the attraction of podcasts, from true crime to comedy, it's kind of ridiculous on how big it's become, Yeah,
100%. I almost wish that we would, if we were to merge from our radio show, we'd go exclusively podcast definitely that would have been something that we would have moved towards, for sure, if the content was there.
For the record, my
Yeah,
vote.
we would have probably gone more. We probably would have. I would have featured more worldwide local music, touching various music scenes around the world, around the U.S., whatever. Yeah.
For the record, my vote was to start J Street Records, just for anyone listening. So there was an advocate out there.
There was prior to J Street, there was a small little label called Earwax Factory Records that my band started. We didn't really do anything, but it was mostly art band stuff. But it lasted for a bit there, almost.
What did you think of Feedback Magazine? Did you think it was, and I'll probably cut this part out, did you think it was just a complete rip-off of J Street, or did you enjoy what they were trying to do over there?
No, I enjoyed it. Again, it was more content to gather to get more access to bands. I mean, more power to them. Yeah. I didn't really consider I considered it for maybe a minute that it was like that, but didn't last very long. I was happy to see it and happy for them to be promoting that stuff. And it was, again, another resource for me to get in touch with bands and yeah, it was awesome.
Why didn't you host Jstreet Events back in the day? I know that Jstreet sponsored events. I mean, I myself have gone out with that banner so many freaking times I can't even tell you. But when Aaron sent me that question, I was like, you're right. I don't think Jstreet ever did like hosted events, did he? I mean, you did have shows at the office. There wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, we when the office era of J Street, Waukegan was kind enough to donate some office space where the Genesee Theater is now. It's not there anymore. The office space isn't. But yeah, we hosted shows there as J Street in the office during the Waukegan arts festivals that they had, and we did host shows, J Street showcases. I don't know if the Metro shows would be considered J Street showcases. They were more Lake County showcases, but we had our banner up on there. But I think the office, when we had our offices down there, and we had a venue, we would do shows kind of hosted by J Street. So that was kind of, I think that would be considered hosting a show, I guess. I don't know what you would consider hosting a show like.
I guess
I never really, yeah. Well, the radio show hosted shows like at the Round Lake Civic Center. We hosted a large show there for J Street Radio, both sponsored by WRLR. Mostly WRLR showcase, but it was J Street Radio focused. Yeah. Brought some Chicago bands in.
I think what he was referring to more is like, why didn't J Street ever be like a production company? Like, you had all these different production companies who were doing their own booking and things like that, and like J Street knew guys to do sound. Like, why weren't they hosting their own shows, kind of thing? I think that's where he was coming from.
Oh yeah, no, it was more about just promoting bands. Really, we didn't move into producing bands or saying, hey, we'd like to produce your record, or something like that. It wasn't never really like that. It was more, hey, once you get a record out, we would love to promote it for you, because we think you're awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It didn't really evolve. I don't know. It wasn't really, I guess it was just a lot of time spent with the promotion side and not enough time to do the production side of that sort of thing. And there's more time. I think if someone come up to me and said, hey, I would like to, I know this band and I would like, to put J Street's name on their record, would you be able to do it? I think something I would go for, but that never really happened. So
yeah, well, J Street, even though they didn't have, just sponsored events or had their own thing, we were able to just kind of be all over the place, which was nice too. So that gives you a little bit more freedom to be able to just kind of be everywhere at once, opposed to just being, a central hub at one place,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to bother you about the Transformers, but yeah, it's really nice seeing you, man. It's really nice catching up.
Yeah, good to see you as well, man. And, Because you're out in Cali, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of near Sacramento area.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, one of these days we'll hook up. I used to travel over there a lot for work on my previous job. But yeah, it was good seeing you, man. I'm glad you're still doing the music thing, which is awesome to see. So
Trying to. It's becoming harder and harder, but I'm not giving up yet. I'm not dead yet. So yeah, it seems.
Are you performing live now or nowadays?
I was before COVID. I got my body back to it and started playing out again and booking little shows and just kind of getting the word out because I put out another CD, but my back just really sidelined me. Since COVID's open, I'm trying to get my body back into rehearsal mode, but I think I'm going to be heading to Illinois soon to work on recording new music. And then from there,
Cool.
if everything can go as planned, I'm definitely going to try to hit the road and just keep doing what I've always been doing. Try to find ears
Awesome.
and, hustle.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah. My AirPods are giving me the warning that they're about to quit, so it's good timing. Yeah, I mean, I can never, again, thank you enough for everything you did for J Street. I mean, it's, something that I'll always be appreciative of. And I just want you to know that it was something that I really appreciate. And you worked hard and you did get paid for it. And you probably would have been a rich man if I would have paid you. But
Well, trust me, going through
yeah.
some of the trials and tribulations that I've learned, seeing a lot of the things that I saw, being a fan of J Street, and then finally being able to work with it, the payment is... there are things that I still use to this day, trust me. So the time isn't
That's
squandered.
awesome.
It's mutually beneficial. And the 14-year-old me still can't believe that I actually had the opportunity of working with Jesse the Brain, which is just mind-blowing to me. But, dude, it's my pleasure, and I'd be happy to do it again any day. I think
Cool.
I think what you were doing was really something special, and I think the void of that stinks. And
Yeah.
hopefully one
And
day...
I'm sure, yeah, you'll be the first to know if I end up doing something like what we talked about earlier. So for sure.
Well, I sure hope so. I sure hope I'm the first one to see these J Street rips, dude, or I'm going to be bugging you for another 12 years because, like,
I know.
There's so many people, man. They don't understand how good these tapes are. They don't get it.
Well, it's kind of like the Gainsay recordings that have never been heard of yet, that I have on CD. One of these days, I'm going to upload it. A full concert hosted by Local H. I don't have them on that recording, but it was a show we did with Local H, a fully recorded Gainsay show. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. I mean, I've heard some of the live recordings from some of the shows back then, but not that. I think Bandcamp would be your best bet because I think you can attach files with that. So if somebody went along with that, you could give them a nice little hey, here's the collection. And I know not only myself, but a lot of other people would love to hear that too. So if that happens, you let me know.
Will do. Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, it was a pleasure catching up. Let's do it again soon. Like I said, I'm coming to town sometime soon, so I'll definitely hit you up. But thank you for making the time. I knew you dropped some awesome knowledge, but even aside from that, it's just nice seeing your face, man. So thank you again.
Cool. As well, I hope it works out, and good luck with podcasts and all that. I heard the initial one you had put out, that first one. I didn't listen to all the way, unfortunately. I got tied up, but it was a good start. And it was awesome.
Well, thanks,
really cool
man.
To listen to.
I'm glad the birds weren't too intrusive on that episode. I was outside, so it was
you had me wondering. I was curious if you were like on the island or something, because all I heard was birds in the background. It was like.
Well, let's just say it was a creative choice to keep them in. But please, by all means, check out some of the rest of the interviews. Like yourself, I've got some really passionate people from inside and outside of the industry. And I'm planning on doing a small season. I might come back and check it out. But I hope you'll tune in. I hope people enjoy this one as much as they do the others. So, again, thank you so much, man. Total pleasure.
Cool. It's good to see you. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
For sure, man. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You too. Thanks.
See you, man.